How's it going, everybody? My name is Chase Keep and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about some advice that is almost 2,000 years old but is still incredibly relevant and practical today. The exact advice I'm talking about was written down by a guy named Seneca way back in 65 AD, and it goes a little something like this. Practice living in poverty, practice being poor, basically practice living with almost nothing to your name. Sound crazy? Yeah, it probably does. It absolutely sounded crazy to me when I first heard about it. It's probably something that you think is insane, but honestly, I want to spend this video talking about why I think this advice, this one tip of practical advice from a Roman philosopher, is so incredibly important and can still be used by so many people today. Honestly, I just want to spend this video talking about why I think this is relevant, why I think you could even start implementing it in your life. So again, this advice came from a guy named Seneca. He was a Roman philosopher, and he wrote this down in 65 AD in his Moral Letters to Lucilius, also commonly known as Letters from a Stoic. And basically, these are the exact lines that he wrote down. So I'll read these out first so that you guys can get a feel of the exact literature that I'm pulling this from. Set aside a certain number of days, during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, "Is this the condition that I feared?" To paraphrase this line, it basically goes something like this. Make a time frame for yourself to live as cheaply as possible on next to nothing. And once you are, and once you see what it's truly like to live like that, ask yourself this: are you really afraid of that? I actually didn't find this information directly from Seneca himself or from reading those letters myself. I actually found it through Tim Ferriss. He's a very well-known author, blogger, and podcast host today. He wrote the book 4-Hour Workweek, which is the most influential book I've ever read in my life. I don't say that lightly. I really mean it. The most influential book I've ever read in my life. If you hadn't read it, I highly encourage that. But anyways, this is a very, very, very wealthy and successful author. I mean, the guy's got multiple best-selling books, very wealthy and successful, and yet he's still applying this exact advice to his own life. I found this article that actually quotes exactly what he does, that he says is really in line with what Seneca was talking about earlier. This is very important to me and eminently applicable to real life. For instance, I will regularly, 3 continuous days per month minimum, practice fasting. I will do that from early Thursday dinner to an early Sunday dinner to simply expose myself to the rather often unfamiliar sensation of real hunger. So even a guy as successful with as much money to his name as Tim Ferriss actually practices this all the time, and you can see that it's important to him. And honestly, you can do the exact same thing in your life, whether it's by not having any food the way he does and fasting entirely, or simply by giving yourself an extremely tight budget, something crazy, like $10 per week for all of the things that you need to buy that week, like food and any entertainment or anything that you need for health, something like that. Just go crazy with it and really force yourself to live as cheap as possible. And realistically, what you're going to get out of this is exactly what Tim Ferriss is getting out of it every time that he does it. Forcing yourself to not eat any food is really going to be a difficult thing to do, but once you actually get some food, you're going to appreciate it so much more. Even if that food is like a $1 rice and beans meal, which is exactly what my dinner would be, even after that type of fast. Even if it's just something that cheap, something that simple and basic, you're going to appreciate it so much more than you ever could have before, because it's honestly just better than no food at all. The same thing happens when you give yourself a super tight budget, like $10 per week for food. If you successfully go through an entire week on $10, the day after that ends and you spend a couple dollars extra, even though it's something real small, you're just going to appreciate that food so much more and think of everything from there on out as a luxury. It'll make yourself way more content with all the food that you currently eat and the diet that you currently have, and really it'll just make you more satisfied with all the things that you already have. So basically, when people say don't take things for granted, or focus on the things that you do have and not on the things that you don't, this is a way to honestly force that to happen. That's exactly what Seneca and Tim Ferriss are talking about. Take action so that you appreciate the things that you do have, rather than just thinking about things that you want more. This advice will usually force you to live your worst case scenario. Right now, imagine the worst case scenario if something random happened to you in life and you suddenly found yourself living with just not a lot of money to your name, You're forcing yourself to practice that aspect so that if anything does happen in the future, you're actually prepared for it. You're going to fear that outcome a lot less because you practice it. Let's just say right now, you were forced to now live for $10 a week on food. you'd probably be really scared and just fearful of actually being able to accomplish that, thinking you probably can't do that, you're gonna have to find other things to do. But what if you had already done that beforehand? What if you had practiced living on $10 a week beforehand? Even though you don't have to live for $10 a week every week, but just a couple weeks out of the year, force yourself to do that. Suddenly, if it actually happens to you in real life, it's not something that you're afraid of, it's something that you understand, something that you know you can overcome yourself, something that you totally are not afraid of. And that's exactly what this advice does. It breaks down fear. Tim Ferriss talks about this concept a lot in his book, 4-Hour Workweek. He usually relates it to the concept of quitting your job to fully enjoy life. So imagine you have a 9-to-5 job and you're not exactly enjoying it, and you have a passion. You want to follow that passion and take the risk and quit that job and go follow that passion, whether it's traveling the world, starting your own business, making art, whatever it may be. Most people are afraid to actually take that chance, to actually take a risk and do that. So imagine you are afraid to quit a 9-to-5 job to pursue your passion. Honestly, what's probably holding you back is that you are scared that, worst case scenario, you run out of money, your passion doesn't pan out, nothing good is going for you, and you're stuck with nothing to your name. That is an extremely common fear for a lot of people. But what if you had spent weeks or days in advance practicing that exact thing happening? What if you knew what it was like to just not have a lot of money and force yourself to live like that? Suddenly you know that you can. Suddenly you know that you actually can be content living like that. Suddenly you're not afraid, and that worst case scenario actually isn't so bad at all. And that is why I think this advice is so relevant and practical today, even though it was originally recorded in 65 AD, almost 2,000 years ago. Because really, if you force yourself to do these things that put you in an uncomfortable position, force you to live in a state that you had originally been afraid of, you're going to be able to conquer that fear, which is just insanely powerful. Again, I've used that term a lot this video, but it really is powerful to be able to overcome that fear simply by trying this new habit, trying this new routine. And therein lies the advice. If you're truly afraid of living without money, or truly afraid of running out of money, or living without something that you own in your life, practice living without those things, because then if the day actually comes when you need to live without them, you're not going to be as scared. You're going to be ready and prepared for that day to have arrived. One of the most important aspects of this advice is that it is actionable. It is something that you can do today. It's something that you can start today. It's something that really doesn't need a lot of effort to actually try it out and see how it goes for yourself. You can actually start this tonight. You can start living on less money and less money and less money tonight, and forcing yourself to do those things that originally you'd been afraid of. And that's really what's something that is so cool. And Seneca and Tim Ferriss, I'm sure, would agree on this one thing. Knowing this information is entirely different from acting on it. So if you really are someone who liked this video and think that this topic is really interesting, try it out for yourself. Try taking something that's important to you and taking it out of your life for a week, for a day even, if that's all you can handle, and see what life is like. Understanding that you can live without those things will only give you more appreciation for the things that you do have, for the things that you do own, and it'll really conquer those fears in the future. And again, those two things are just so insanely powerful, and that's why I made this video, because I wanted to talk about this advice and why I think this advice is so important. And that just about wraps up the video. I was really excited to make this one. I hope you guys liked it. It's kind of a different topic and different setup than I usually have in my videos, so I hope you guys enjoyed. Again, I really enjoyed making it. It's something that I think is so cool and important. But if you did, please turn that like button blue, especially if you found this content helpful or interesting in any sort of way and you think other people could benefit from hearing the same thing. Turning that like button blue helps to push this video to more people around the world, and that obviously will help me and it'll help them. So please do that if you like the video. Subscribe for more. I guarantee in the next 2 or 3 months I will make a video about how I lived, some type of catchy title like I lived like Seneca for 30 days. Here's what I learned. So if you don't want to miss that video, absolutely subscribe, and then also comment down below if there was anything about this video that you want to talk about more, because I love talking about things like this. I love starting conversations there in the YouTube comments. So comment down below, turn that like button blue, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.